Once on, there are no signs of de-escalation at the Russia-Ukrainian border, where an estimated 100,000 Russian troops have been deployed. But for what? That is not yet clear. Russia maintains it has no plans of an invasion. The West believes otherwise, and both sides are preparing for the worst. In the latest, US President Joe Biden has said that he would consider imposing sanctions on President Putin himself if Russia invaded Ukraine.
Would you ever see yourself personally sanctioning him if he did invade Ukraine?
Yes.
You would?
I would see that.
Threats of sanctions are not uncommon, but a sanction of a head of state is rare and reserved for extreme situations. This comes as NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, led by the US, placed forces on standby and reinforced Eastern Europe with more ships and fighter jets. The US, too, has put about 8,500 troops on high alert, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Countries like the US and UK are also supplying military equipment to Ukraine. Washington has committed over $650 million worth of security assistance to Ukraine in the past year. Across the Atlantic, Western leaders too are appealing for unity, though differences in opinions remain over how to respond. For example, Germany has refused to provide weapons to Ukraine. For Europe, the crisis is twofold. The bloc depends on Russia for around a third of its gas supplies. Any interruptions to Russia's gas supply to Europe would worsen an already existing energy crisis to that end. Senior Biden administration officials said that it was in talks with major energy-producing countries and companies around the world over a potential diversion of supplies to Europe if Russia invaded Ukraine. In Ukraine, President Zelensky urged citizens to stay calm and not panic, and that he and Ukraine's allies were acting as one team.
Посольства країн ЄС та багатьох інших залишають усіх своїх працівників в Україні. А те, що деякі країни вивозять частину своїх дипломатів, ще зовсім не означає неминучу ескалацію і є тонкощами складної дипломатичної гри. Разом з партнерами ми працюємо спільно, діємо єдиною командою.
And for more on this, our correspondent Julia Chapman joins us live from Moscow. Julia, Ukraine seems confident to the Paris talks, but the worry over troop deployment along the border by Russia continues to grow. Russia is part of the talks. What does the country hope to achieve from it?
Russia says that it is committed to engaging in dialogue at all levels to try to de-escalate the crisis on the Ukrainian border. But of course, there is still a very substantial buildup of Russian troops on its border with Ukraine, upwards of 100,000 forces from Russia. And it says that they will not be moved because of an unfriendly atmosphere in Europe. Nevertheless, there have been 3 weeks now of dialogue between Russia and the West aimed at trying to find some sort of common ground. This is the first time, though, that Russian and Ukrainian officials are sitting down at the same table in an effort to engage. Russia has chosen to circumvent Ukraine for the most part and engage directly with the United States, which it sees as a proxy for NATO. So certainly this is an important step in the diplomatic process. No one has incredibly high hopes for a breakthrough, but the continuation of dialogue is a positive sign because it means that at least things aren't escalating.
Critics have questioned the unity of the European bloc in handling the Ukraine crisis. You have the West threatening Russia with sanctions if it invaded Ukraine. Some countries are of the opinion that diplomacy is the way out of the dispute. But Julia, what is really the way out of this situation?
It's anyone's guess, really, what the solution is. Many different efforts are being made. There are different approaches. And certainly the European Union, the West, is not unified in its approach. We are seeing some countries prefer to engage with Russia, others preferring to threaten it, some taking a balanced step somewhere in between the two. Certainly it's impossible to say which one will work, which methods are effective. Russia says that it has no intention to invade Ukraine, but the tensions remain very high. high, and Russia's military preparedness remains high, not just on the Ukrainian border, but naval drills are being carried out across the seas that Russia borders. There are other land drills in Belarus as well, some in southern Russia on the peninsula of Crimea, which was annexed in 2014 from Ukraine. So certainly a lot of very high tensions. Which approach is going to prove to be the right one, only time will tell. But Russia doesn't seem very willing to engage with the EU as an institution. It doesn't believe that it has the power or a unified approach to Russia, and there are certainly some voices in the EU that are very hostile to Russia, that have historic reasons for being so, that refuse to engage with Russia in any significant way. And so Moscow believes that that is not the particular path that it wants to go down. It's preferring to talk directly with NATO and the United States.
Live from Moscow, Julia Chapman, thank you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.